You don't see the number 0 very often in the NFL. That's because until this season, players weren't allowed to wear it. For Byron Young, the number has a special meaning. 0 as in 0%, the odds he would make it through to the league. But the number 0 could just as well stand for the fact that Byron, coming out of high school, was a 0-star prospect with 0 scholarship offers and grades too bad to enroll in a 4-year college. Or how, when finally offered a shot to take a post-grad year and get his grades up, the program abruptly shut down because it had 0 money. Maybe it's about the time he made his JUCO team through an open tryout which he found out about from a flyer, finally started to show out, and then was informed that due to COVID, his team would have 0 season. Working multiple jobs including Burger King and Dollar General just to make ends meet, Byron had 0 reasons to think his football career was anything but over. However, it was not. After earning his transfer to Division I, he became a standout performer in the nation's most revered college football conference, ran one of the fastest 40 times ever for someone his size, and set himself up to be selected against all odds in the NFL draft. But when he heard his own name called on draft day, it turned out to be a mistake. At least the first time. Almost nothing in Byron's football career has come easy, which is why he's learned to keep going when things get tough. These days, well, he's far from a 0.
If I got a job, I'm gonna do it, no matter what it is.
The South Carolina Low Country gets its name from its geography, namely its coastal marshes which sit nearer to sea level than the rest of the state. But the region's name also appropriately describes how it routinely goes under the radar among college football scouts. Other than to see the odd superstar, big-time programs rarely make the trip out. Carver's Bay High School head football coach Matthew Richard knew this unfortunate reality well, and would use it to motivate his players, letting them know they would have to work twice as hard to get half the result. When Byron Young showed up to tryouts as a freshman, Coach Richard saw a big kid whose football skills were still a bit raw. But the youngest of 13 siblings and not used to getting any handouts, his attitude alone would get him on the field. During his time at Carver's Bay, Byron fell in love with the game of football. Given his speed and stature, he naturally gravitated toward the edge rusher position. Before long, he also started playing running back and returning punts, a nightmare for opposing special teams players who had to tackle the 6'3", 215-pound missile hurling right towards them. Despite starring for the Bears, Byron generated little recruiting interest from college scouts. To make matters worse, his grades were too bad even to walk on at a 4-year college. Upon graduating, his football career seemed finished, but regardless of what his GPA said, Byron had learned a lot during his 4 years in high school. One thing he hadn't learned was how to give up. When he heard about the Gulf Coast Prep Sports Academy, a post-grad football program in Alabama for players hoping to get their grades up and break into college football, he jumped at the opportunity. The bare bones upstart football program was the last chance for players who couldn't even make it to Last Chance U. But the chance didn't last long. Just 2 games into the 2018 season, Gulf Coast announced that the football program would shut down, citing financial concerns. Byron and his teammates were kicked out of the dorms without much notice, and in the aftermath, a former coach sued the school's owner claiming that he never got paid. When journalists went to the school's address to investigate, they had the door slammed in their face. After the collapse of Gulf Coast Prep, Byron moved to live near his oldest brother Ike in Columbus, Georgia. He got a job at Burger King, which he approached with the same relentless work ethic he brought to the gridiron. Working the grill and mopping the floors, he astounded his fellow employees with his dedication to perfecting every task. Little did they know, his motivation came from the steadfast belief that hard work might somehow lead him back to the football field. Behind the scenes, he was making regular trips to Planet Fitness in order to stay in shape. One day, his boss suggested that he pick up a second job at the nearby Dollar General. Football was nice and all, but he needed a plan B. At his second job, Byron did it all, stocking shelves, opening and closing the store, even impressing customers with his helpful attitude at the cash register. It looked like one day he might become a store manager. Fate, though, had other plans. Byron and his brother happened upon a flyer that would change his life. The nearby Georgia Military College was holding open football tryouts, and Byron couldn't pass up the chance to rekindle his football dreams. After just one sprint, defensive coordinator Rob Manchester had made up his mind. Not only was Byron one of the fastest players out there, he was 220 pounds. The Bulldogs had a starting pass rusher, and Byron had another last chance. JUCO, though, is a long shot from the full-ride scholarships and catered team lunches common in cushy Division I. Byron had to work his way through, paying for his apartment and tuition while balancing an intense practice schedule. On top of this, GMC's standing as a military institution meant Byron had to serve in the Cadet Corps during his time there. Naturally, Byron not only served, but became the leader of his group, responsible for making sure his fellow cadets were punctual and well-positioned for all exercises. On the field, Byron was punctual and well-positioned at the quarterback, recording 7 sacks in 11 games for the Bulldogs in 2019. Just as he was gearing up to build on this performance in year 2 and draw the attention of D1 scouts, Byron received the devastating news that the 2020 season would be cancelled due to the coronavirus. Now working at Circle K, where he often took the night shift in order to accommodate football practice, he for perhaps the first time started feeling serious doubts. After coming so far, he later recounted, it felt like being back at square one. Luckily, he had his mom, who encouraged him by saying that if he kept on doing what he was doing, somebody would be watching. It turns out they were. Byron had put together a highlight reel of his JUCO tape and sent it out to all the FCS and FBS schools he could think of. But by October, he had yet to hear anything back. Having forgotten about the tape, he was shocked when an offer suddenly arrived from South Alabama, then one from Old Dominion. When Tennessee came calling, he was in disbelief, and by November, he had offers from half the schools in the SEC. After taking a virtual visit to Tennessee, Byron picked up on an at-home vibe that reminded him of Carver's Bay, and he committed to the Vols that December.
It don't matter. I'm gonna listen. I'm a sponge. I'm gonna squeeze everything I get and, just get it.
During his first semester in Knoxville, he hit the weight room hard and gained 30 pounds, giving him the bulk needed to play D-line in the SEC. On the practice field, he worked to hone an array of pass rush moves, including his favorite, the ghost move, which he patterned off of NFL star Von Miller. BY, according to teammates, was always dialed in, and okay with being coached harder than anyone. When the season started, an eager Byron faced yet another setback. He would have to sit out the season opener due to NCAA eligibility issues stemming from his time at Gulf Coast Prep. After missing 2 games, Byron was finally cleared, and with his parents in attendance at Neyland Stadium, he finally made his debut. During his first season at Tennessee in 2021, Byron started 8 games and recorded 5.5 sacks. In 2022, he started all 13, increasing his sack total to 7. A projected early round NFL draft pick, Byron faced the choice of whether to play in that season's Orange Bowl against Clemson, a choice which had become a no-brainer among top prospects in recent years. Everyone, he admitted, was telling him to opt out. The risk, they said, wasn't worth it. Byron, though, after praying on it, went with his gut. He would play. He had worked too hard for this chance, only to pass it up. After recording 2 sacks into victory in his final college game, it seemed he had made the right choice.
It's amazing though, finishing what we started, man. This was all about.
Despite being named first team All-SEC, NFL scouts weren't all sold about Byron's prospects on the next level. He traveled to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis with something to prove. After eye-popping performances in the vertical and broad jump, he had started to turn heads. He followed this up in one-on-one interviews by impressing teams with his humility and passion for the game. When it came time for the 40-yard dash, Byron shocked everyone by running it in a blazing 4.48 seconds, which would have been fast enough on its own. But when the official time came in, it was revised down to 4.43. Not just a fast time, but a phenomenal one. Only 3 linebackers had run a quicker time in the last 20 years, and at 250 pounds, he was on the heavier side of the group. With both the production and now the measurables to back it up, Byron had put his best foot forward, and just over a month later, the Young family gathered at a beach house in Pawleys Island to watch the NFL draft. Byron sat quietly, grasping his phone with nervous excitement, while relatives bustled about, catching up and enjoying the occasion. Some were only paying half attention when the announcement came from the TV that all-SEC defensive lineman Byron Young was selected in the 3rd round. As soon as they heard it, many burst into celebration. But Byron was still sitting quietly, and his phone hadn't rung. It was the other Byron Young, a defensive tackle from Alabama. Luckily, Byron heard his name called just 7 picks later, and this time it was for real. He was headed to Los Angeles as a member of the Rams. Byron thanked his family and friends who had gathered to celebrate his accomplishment, but he still hadn't thanked everyone. Before making the trip out west, he made sure to go back to each of his part-time jobs and express his gratitude to all those who helped him along the way.
I've been through harder moments, so, things like this I just love, and this is a game I love, so I never want to stop playing. I love it.
Given his improbable journey to the NFL, it's no wonder that Byron has already made an impact. Through the first 6 games of the 2023 season, he led all rookies in QB pressures, and his impressive sack numbers have him poised to become a cornerstone of the LA defense for years to come. While he might not have the big name or flashy play style of the typical NFL star, his work ethic is second to none. According to Rams coach Sean McVay, he's getting better every week, and the sky may well be the limit. Byron's intensity is the hallmark of a player who approaches each rep with the same focus he did flipping patties in the BK kitchen just a few short years ago. 0? It might just stand for zero quit.